Let's go.
Let's go.
Oh, did you want to?
Sorry, I'll let you.
Next time.
I'm in love with you.
Snap out of it.
I'll have what she's having.
Too many guys think I'm a concept, or I complete them, or I'm gonna make them alive. I'm just a fucked up girl who's looking for my own peace of mind. Don't assign me yours.
Caustic wit is my religion.
I would make a great queen because I am so stubborn.
I say when it comes to stardom and Lauren, there are no accidents.
Hi, Karen Peterson.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Citizen Dame, the podcast where we ask the age-old question, why are men? And are men necessary? And we've largely come to the conclusion that we don't know and probably not. I am Lauren Humphreys Brooks. With me, as always, is Karen Peterson. Hello, Karen.
Hello. Yeah,
and how are you?
I'm doing okay. I was just gonna say, yesterday when we threw that question out, or you did, on Citizen Dame, and one of our amazing listeners, Shakita, said, "Oh, I think men are necessary for some things," and I was just like, I'm still not convinced. There are definitely men I enjoy having around. They're great people. I had dinner with one of them last night. Not a date, it was a group of friends. But some I do quite enjoy their company, but are they necessary? I don't know. I'm still deciding.
I think they're probably necessary for the continued propagation of the species, but otherwise, I don't know.
Well, as the great philosopher Diana, Princess of Themyscira, said, men are essential for procreation, but when it comes to pleasure, unnecessary.
Oh my God, we're going to end this podcast by both being like, so we're going to come out or something? I don't know, because my God, it can get to be exhausting being a woman generally, and definitely being a straight woman. Not that lesbians or bisexuals or anyone else has it easy. I'm not saying that at all.
No. None of us have it easy.
None of us do. But yeah, men, you're making it really difficult to be attracted to you.
Unless you're Chris Pine.
Unless you're like Chris Pine. There are a few. Chris Pine, Taika Waititi. There's some kind of mixed in there that we're all right with. But
we've granted a few exceptions.
My God, men have just been on this week. It's like they all need to sit down, take a chill pill, calm down a little bit, stop letting their emotions rule them. They're really excitable people. So
it's a little frightening. I'm a little concerned for their well-being.
Yes. So please, guys, just chill out and stop being wrong. Just stop being wrong online and aggressively being wrong. Like, not even listening to people who tell you, leave me alone, or you're wrong because you're wrong.
Yeah. Like, first of all, I've never understood why they think that we need to have their opinion, like why their opinion is so essential to our lives. So not that I want any man to try to explain that to me, because the fact is your opinion is not necessary to my life, no matter what reason you give. Some opinions I'd like to know, but I don't need it. And especially if I tell you I don't care what you think, I don't care what you think. And you're not going to talk me into caring what you think.
Well, that was the thing. So my own altercation with a particular male film critic, who I'm pretty positive that I've gotten into this argument with before, because I had muted him for a while, and then somehow he wound up back on my page. The whole so I felt like I shouldn't be saying anything about this. What do you want me to say? It's like, maybe you can just not say anything. You could just not speak. And then no one would be like, hey, you're being a dick. Because if you're not speaking, we can't know that you're such a sexist dick. But of course, I think he kept on responding to me, like, because I definitely muted him again. And then there were like 5, you've muted this person responses underneath it. I was like, I'm not even going to look. I'm just going to let him keep on talking. And when he's done, he can,
just look.
Don't tell me, please don't.
I won't. I just need to know for myself. I'm just really curious. But Yeah, then I commented on somebody else's thing and then he like liked my comment. I'm like, why are you here? Go away. Nobody cares.
I think that there's some dudes who they do kind of like a passive aggressive liking thing on Twitter where
like, pay attention to me. Don't forget I'm here.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's like where you respond to them and then they like your comment even though you're basically calling them an idiot. And I don't know what the deal is there, but it's bizarre. Anyways, we're not going to go through our own Twitter fights today. I do think that we need to address one of the things that happened this week in terms of how men are terrible. And then we can move on from this. The fact of the matter is I have not actually seen anything that this guy has produced or this guy has been in, but recently actor Noel Clarke was accused of groping, harassment, and bullying by 20 different women. This was within like a couple of days of Clarke winning a BAFTA. And what came out was that BAFTA had actually been informed of this investigation and this Guardian article that was going to come out within a couple of days. And they were informed within 2 weeks before any of this happened, before the BAFTAs and before the article came out. They didn't do anything. So they made absolutely no changes and they awarded Clarke a BAFTA. And now all of this stuff has come out about him doing all kinds of things to women, ranging from being a bully, right, to like making them do nude performances in bikinis. It's very disturbing. We'll link to the Guardian article because it kind of details all of the accusations against him. We're talking about 20 women, 20 different women have accused this man of inappropriate sexual behavior. Jesus Christ. Like, and this is someone who he just won a BAFTA. Mm-hmm. He just won one. And BAFTA knew about it. BAFTA knew that this was going to happen, knew that this was coming down the pike. And I do wonder what I've read their reasoning, but it's still like, what did you think was going to happen? Because this was only going to make you look bad when it came out, because it was going to come out one way or another. So I don't understand what the reasoning is. I don't understand why they would, I guess, defend this guy or defend their own behavior on this. It's distressing, and it's just, yet another addition to the long list of men in power in cinema and in theater who have obviously exploited that power and used it sometimes just to be assholes, but other times to drive people out of the industry, right? To make women so uncomfortable that they don't want to do their own jobs anymore. Mm-hmm. It's horrifying.
It is. And I mean, as for this particular individual, Noel Clarke, it's interesting because he followed the typical pattern that you see every time these types of stories come out, where it's like deny, and then, okay, well, we still deny it, but he's going to seek some help. And that's exactly what happened this week. Like, denied it, like, everywhere. No way, this never happened. And if I made anyone uncomfortable, it's totally unintentional. And then yesterday, there was another story that he's going to seek help, but he still denies doing anything wrong. It's like, what are you seeking help for then?
Yeah, it's a very bizarre kind of thing. It's like they want to have it both ways. Mm-hmm. Whereas like, I didn't do this, there wasn't anything wrong, I didn't mean anything wrong by it, but also I'm going to seek help. It's like, okay, but those don't fit together. Right. Because if you didn't do anything wrong, then there's not, like you say, there's nothing you need to seek help for. It's so obviously a performance, because yep. I don't think that he believes he did anything wrong per se. Or that there is anything he needs to seek help for. Sex addiction is a real thing. And people are disturbed, and there are people that actually do need help. But not every guy who behaves like this with women has sex addiction. This is not a disease, right? That you suddenly are like, well, now I'm going to go fix this. Like, no, you obviously don't want to fix it. The only reason why you are saying this is because you got caught.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And you think that this is going to be an easy way out of trouble for you. By the way, I just saw last night also, totally separate story, but related because gross men. Harvey Weinstein, he's getting extradited to LA to stand trial. The judge said within the next 30 days, he has to be in LA.
Oh boy.
And the case in LA, from my understanding, the case in LA is even stronger than what they had in New York.
I mean, I want this man to suffer, and I want him to continue to suffer. We keep on getting reports of things about him, and I am pleased that most of the people that I follow, their immediate response is like, well, how are the women that he like assaulted doing? Because that's really what I'm concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck him. Yeah. I don't care. Like, I don't want him to die per se, but I don't wish that on anybody, right? But I don't care what he's going through as a human being, particularly. Yeah, no.
Like when he had COVID, I was just like, okay, good. Yep. I hope it sucks. Yep. I don't know. I don't care.
A lot of people have COVID. Must be terrible. I mean, yeah, like there are a lot of people I feel a lot more sympathy for.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just nice to know that like that case is still going forward. Nobody has said, well, he's going to die in prison in New York. Let's just move on with our lives. Like they really want him to be held accountable for as much of his wrongdoing as possible. And I'm glad to see that. So yeah, because the LA survivors deserve to have their day in court too.
Yeah, I think that at this point it's less about punishment. And I think ultimately a lot of this has been less about punishment than it has been about giving that kind of closure to the people, to the survivors, to the people that have experienced this, to giving them the opportunity if they need to actually make their stories heard and be believed. Mm-hmm. And that's what's most important. What's most important is that these women are able to find a way to close this off and to maybe move on with their lives, and even to face the person who did this to them and actually see that he is being brought to justice at some level.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes you think like if certain people had been held accountable for their actions, years ago, maybe the industry would have had this change a long time ago and we wouldn't be dealing with the problems that we're dealing with today. I don't know. I mean, that's an unknowable thing, but I wonder about it a lot.
It goes back to the thing I think that Emma Thompson said, and other people have said this in various forms ever since all of this has begun to come out. But Emma Thompson said this very early on with the Harvey Weinstein stuff, just that it shouldn't take 20 women. It should take one. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be 20 women have had to suffer this. And, and if you're talking about 20 women who have made allegations, that there are more. Know that there are more who, as you said, I think the other day on our Slack, that that there are there are a whole bunch of people who haven't talked about it because for a multitude of reasons, right? Mm-hmm. And it shouldn't take that many women for any of them to be believed. It should be one woman should say, this man did this to me, and she should be believed. And regardless of whether or not this actually brings him to justice, that should be the end of his career. Yeah, right? He should no longer be in a position of power, right? So we should not have 20 women coming out about Noel Clarke talking about this shit. It should be one woman came out and talked about it, and BAFTA didn't give him a fucking award.
Right.
But of course, that's not the way that it is. And you ask those questions like, God, why don't women say this? Well, because they don't have anything to gain. Like, and at a certain point, I think a lot of women don't come out because they know if I'm just the one person, I'm probably not going to be believed. If there are 15 other people standing with me, then maybe we will all be believed because no one can process that like, oh, this isn't an aberration. This is obviously a problem. Mm-hmm. It's so exhausting.
Yep, it really is.
So yeah, so Noel Clarke, hopefully something will come of all of this. I know that the case I think has been turned over to the London police. So this is similar to Weinstein, the fact that this is actually being pursued as criminal.
Good.
All right, so moving on to like maybe some slightly better things. I just wanted to say Chloe Zhao. We did not get a chance to talk about the Oscars because you have been spending a lot of time talking about the Oscars and I barely paid attention to the Oscars. Mm-hmm. But
Academy Award winner Chloe Zhao.
the big one was Chloe Zhao, I think, more so than almost anything else. And of course, there were all kinds of things that went on at the Oscars that were bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
and also good, and you know, I think that every Oscars, I feel like there's a combination of what the fuck and oh, that's really cool. So yeah, Chloe Zhao became the second woman in Oscar history to win a Best Director Oscar, and she is the first woman of color. So we are very, very excited for her.
Woo-hoo!
And it felt like it was almost a done deal anyways. You kept on saying, oh yeah, she's going to win 100%. But it was still nice to actually see it happen. There's always that chance that the Academy is going to screw up.
Yeah, exactly. It's always possible that they're not going to get it right, as we saw with some categories. And, you know, there are different opinions on others, but...
Well, I mean, do we want to talk about the Chadwick Boseman thing? Because it just got weird.
I don't know if I want to say this on the record, but
right.
No, we can talk about it. No, we can talk about it, because here's what I think needs to be said. So first of all, I'm just, you know, for years when I was, you know, with Award Circuit and stuff, we would do our podcasts and we would talk about, like, what if they just didn't do Best Picture last? And I love how Steven Soderbergh's like, yeah, what if? Well, we found that out, and that will never happen again. So it really sucked that they tried to force a moment, and then it didn't work out the way they wanted. And they were so intent on and so focused, it seems. Well, I'm going to say he, because everyone knows it was Soderbergh who got final call on all of that stuff. He got to make the decisions, and the Academy just let him do it. But, you know, then the stories came out that Anthony Hopkins' reps were saying, like, please, he's old. He's not going to travel in a pandemic. Please just let him Zoom in his speech. And if they had let him, even if they had the category last, which they shouldn't have, and Anthony Hopkins still won, they would have still gotten their tribute to Chadwick Boseman, because he would have done that, because he's a classy man. He did it in the video he recorded the next morning when he found out he won, you know? So it's like, they still would have gotten a little bit of that moment. It wouldn't have been the same. And honestly, it would have been better than ending on Chadwick Boseman's still grieving widow. Like, what the hell was that? That's not fair. Of, like, I mean, we all miss him. We all love him. We all recognize that he was a talent that was unmatched, and we're not going to see someone like him. I mean, there's lots of great actors, but we're not going to see him again, you know, and that's hard. And we all want to grieve the loss of him, but to trot out his widow and use her for this forced emotional moment, that wouldn't have been fair. And then to botch it as badly as they did on top of that was just ridiculous. And I also want to say it's really unfair too to Anthony Hopkins, who has had an exceptional career and still managed to give the best performance of his life in The Father. And as much as I was rooting for Chadwick Boseman to win, Anthony Hopkins absolutely deserved an Oscar for that too. I honestly wish they could have tied because they're both incredible. And it really sucks that Hopkins's win now is being just, like, diminished mostly by film Twitter, who is just hurt that their favorite person didn't win. Well,
yeah, I mean, like you said, the whole thing is a screw up by Soderbergh and the producers of the awards, because you do have this, you basically have an untenable situation, right? Where if Boseman loses, then you have something like this, where everybody is mad at whoever won. Like, if anyone other than Boseman had won, I think that there would have still been that same kind of outcry. But they set it up so obviously that he was going to win, but they don't have control over that.
Right. They set it up where it was like, did they open the envelope ahead of time? Did they know? But they didn't.
obviously they didn't, because they don't know who's going to win the awards. So then they set this whole thing up where it's just like, well, obviously Chadwick Boseman is going to win, and then he didn't. And so then you have this horrible situation, like you say, where you've got Hopkins who is not able to be there. You've got Boseman's video. You've got this whole kind of false emotional climax of the entire awards show, and it doesn't pay off, right? And the thing was, I think that it would have been false even if Boseman had won. I think that it would have been easier to process, probably. Like, it wouldn't have been this massive kind of sense of unfairness. But to move the order of the awards in order to I don't know, feature this actor who's passed away. I mean, they didn't do that when Heath Ledger died and won for the Joker, right? And that's not saying that like any of this is necessarily comparable, but it just seems like such a bad move and so calculated that then it would have felt calculated even if he had won.
Yeah. In fact, I think it would have felt more calculated. And that's where I say, like, if he had won, it would have felt like, did they open the envelope already? Did they know for sure this was going to happen? Because it seems so unthinkable that they would take such a calculated risk like that and have it blow up in their face. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. It's distressing. And it's distressing that so many people have decided to go after Anthony Hopkins, who didn't do anything wrong. In fact was basically like paid tribute to Chadwick Boseman in his speech, but to be like, oh, his performance wasn't that good and all that stuff, just like, well, we have two separate things going on here, right? We have two actors who gave two different performances and one of them won. And we have an academy, and we have the fact that one of the actors has passed away since then, and we have an academy that decided to kind of create this emotional moment that then didn't even work. It's
Did you see The Father?
I haven't seen The Father yet.
Man,
it's
I'm so
still, I think I said this, I've actually seen the play that it's based on.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right.
I saw it on Broadway, so I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Did you see it with Frank Langella?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm so jealous.
Yeah, it was excellent. Like I went to see, one of my friends had tickets and he just invited me, and it was fantastic. But I would be interested to see how they do that on film, because it can be the way that the play is set up is I imagine that it's very different in the way that they do it on film. But,
well, yeah, and it's funny because as I was watching the movie, I was like, I can't imagine how they would do this on stage. So yeah.
Well, yeah, it would be interesting. But yeah, the whole thing was it was sad. And it also, and as several people have pointed out, it also robbed, I think, Nomadland and Chloe Zhao of this cathartic moment as well.
I think that was even more frustrating to me, because as much as we went into Oscar night sure that Chadwick Boseman was going to win, we knew Chloe Zhao was going to win. And to put Best Director as the 8th award given out on the night, when you know this is about to be a historic moment for Best Director, or at least very likely about to be, was just like, oh, all right, well, it's not that special. It's like, wait, what? And then to have Best Picture, which is also directed by a woman, and Frances McDormand, who we didn't know if she was about to win Best Actress, but she's now the first actress to have an Oscar for acting and for producing. Like, huge historic moments. And Nomadland should have been like, the reason you put Best Picture last, just like you put the best dramas or whatever, or the TV stuff at the Emmys last, is because that is the culmination of all the work you've been celebrating all night. And no, it's not a sweep. It's not like Nomadland won every category. It only got 3 Oscars, but you're talking about your editing and your sound and your cinematography, and you're celebrating the art of the movies. And then you end with, and then this was the best film that did all of these things. And you have a big celebration because it's exciting. It's a big moment. And then you go off with your life, and go on to the next year. But yeah, they didn't do that. And it was really unfair to Chloe Zhao, to everybody at Nomadland, to not get to be the ones that celebrate at the end. And instead you have Joaquin Phoenix bumbling through a list of actors, saying the name of someone who wasn't there, and then just, all right, bye. And it fades to black. And it's just like, what just happened?
it really it felt anticlimactic, and it felt very unfair to a whole lot of people.
It did.
And in some ways it was similar to, I mean, there have been so many fuck ups in the Academy Awards for the last couple of years, but it felt similar to the screw up with Moonlight. And again, this wasn't an intentional screw up, right? But it was that sense of like, so you've got these, you've got this film that should be celebrated, and they don't really get a chance to celebrate. Right. You don't really get this chance. So the Academy Awards really, they, in terms of the production of their show, they really need to get on the ball now, because at a certain point, it's like, it almost feels deliberate that there's like, oh, we're going to have some major screw up so that everybody's talking about it for a week afterwards. Or something. And I know that it's not deliberate and everything, but it feels that way. There's this like, are you just doing this for the fun of it? Like, you're confusing people so that something gets fucked up.
And what's really frustrating, especially with Best Picture with Nomadland and what happened with Moonlight, it's like, I'm sure I believe that it's an accident. It's a total coincidence. Well, I mean, Nomadland being not last was not a coincidence or an accident, but it's like, why are these only happening to movies that are, directed by people of color, that are about people that are very marginalized? Because Nomadland, first of all, it's not that often that a movie that wins Best Picture has a woman at the center of the story, like as the lead character. It does happen, but not that often. And then it's about these people that are just like kind of living on the fringe of society as well. And yeah, anyway, it's just frustrating. It's like, if it had gone the other way, if like Trial of the Chicago 7 had been Best Picture, that would have landed much differently. If La La Land had won Best Picture, but they'd accidentally said Moonlight, it would have landed much differently.
Yeah. It feels marginalizing, I think, is what it comes down to. And again, even if it's not deliberate, it does feel like they're not, it can be not deliberate, but that they're still not giving the appropriate attention to the award show itself.
Yeah. They're not giving it enough care. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there isn't this sense of like, you actually care what happens here. You actually care that these are films, when you're talking about Moonlight or you're talking about Nomadland, or actually a number of the Best Picture winners over the past few years have been very interesting and strange and not Oscar bait films. I mean, you had Parasite, which is a Korean film. You had Shape of Water, which is a monstrous fairy tale. You have all of these kind of very different films, and as more different films have been produced by a diverse group of people, it feels like they're paying less and less attention to the importance of that award.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't know. It's a little troubling.
It is.
So any other final Oscar thoughts? I don't have many. I just wanted to kind of mention the Chloe Zhao win because it is very cool. We are very glad about this.
It's so great. And also Emerald Fennell winning for original screenplay. That was so great too. Those two words were just, they made my heart happy, because I believe, and someone else can correct me, but I believe Emerald Fennell is the first woman in like 20 years to win a screenplay award as a solo writer.
I mean, we've talked about this before, but at the same time, I'm like, yay, hurrah, these are good things, but also, Jesus Christ, Academy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, guys, please get on the ball about the fact that, not white men are very interesting writers and directors and performers and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that's really important. And so of course we say congratulations to Chloe Zhao and to everybody who won an Academy Award and who was nominated, because there were actually some great films and great performances this year.
There really were.
Despite the pandemic, despite all kind of the weirdnesses of the way that the Academy Awards fell out. Moving on, I want to talk about a film that has actually just been released in the United Kingdom. And has some fantastic reviews in the Irish press, by the way, if you ever want to look it up. But I was reminded of the existence of this film the other day because it was just released in the United Kingdom and people are talking about it again. And so I had to mention it, and then we were like, okay, well, we have to talk about this movie. This is the film Wild Mountain Thyme, which actually came out in the United States, I think, at the end of last year.
Yeah.
And I was alerted, I kind of remember when it came out, I was alerted more to its existence when one of my friends sent me a BuzzFeed article about it. And then I was like, well, now I have to see this. There is just not even a question of this. So Wild Mountain Thyme is a romantic Irish comedy.
Is it romantic?
Something. That's how it's billed. Like it's a thing. Romantic. Let's put quotation marks on it. Romantic Irish drama, which deals with the conflicts between two families with adjoining land, basically. And it stars Emily, and this is a great cast, I have to say. Emily Blunt, Jamie Dornan, John Hamm, and Christopher Walken. Right, that is an excellent cast right there.
I was not expecting John Hamm. When he showed up, I was like, of course.
And John Hamm is here.
Of course, he's the hot American cousin.
And I watched this film for the first time a while ago, so I refreshed my memory of some of it. It's a film. It has so many different problems that it's difficult to pinpoint where exactly, because eventually all of the other problems of the film get subsumed under the weirdest twist, I think, probably in the history of film. And I'm saying that not like because this is not a surrealist drama. This is not, absurdism. This is not like
romantic dramedy.
Yes, this is not like a Buñuel film where suddenly an emu walks through the frame. Like this is like a supposed to be a serious movie.
I would like to point out too, though, this was written and directed by John Patrick Shanley, whose name might sound familiar because he wrote Moonstruck. And he also wrote Doubt.
Yeah, he wrote Doubt, right?
Yeah. He wrote the play and then adapted it for the screen. Same guy.
I don't even know. I don't know, because so we're going to spoil this movie because there's no way that we can really talk about it without spoiling it. First of all, these are the worst Irish accents I've ever heard in the history of Irish accents. It's embarrassing, and I am going to include pretty much every bad Irish featured film from the classical period, because at least most of those people were actually Irish. Mm-hmm. Or had Irish background. I don't think that anyone, maybe Jamie Dornan has some Irish background somewhere along the way.
Yeah, I was trying to remember, is he Scottish or because I know
Jamie Dornan is. I can tell you right now.
I'm gonna laugh my face
off. Oh, he is Irish. He is fucking Irish. He's from Northern Ireland. What happened, Jamie Dornan?
Oh my gosh. So maybe we just don't know what real Irish accents sound like.
No one in Ireland sounds like this. None of the accents, I don't, unless this is some part of Ireland that I have never visited and is Hollywood, Ireland or so. I don't know, but no one sounds like this.
What I do know is that I'm adding this to my list of questions for someday when I meet Jamie Dornan at a party, and I'm gonna be like, let's talk about Edgar dancing on the beach, and also what the fuck was that accent in Wild Mountain Thyme.
So we have these two characters. Basically, this is a weird, thirsty romance where she's essentially been in love with him forever, and
has thrown her entire life away in the hopes that one day he will love her too.
And he, for some reason, even though she's Emily Blunt, is no, absolutely not. It's why, dude? Why? What is the justification for this? Well, we eventually find out the justification.
It's a pretty good justification.
Again, spoilers, in a very earnest and long scene in which Jamie Dornan confesses that he believes he is a honeybee. And to give the Emily Blunt character, whatever her name is, Rosemary. Oh my God, her name is Rosemary, and it's called Wild Mountain Thyme. To give her credit, she does have her initial reaction is, what? It's are you fucking kidding me? Are you serious?
Yeah, that's a thing that happens.
So he confesses to her that he believes in his heart of hearts that he is a honeybee. and that seems to be why they can't be together. What I find very funny, and what the BuzzFeed article pointed out, is that fairly quickly she accepts it.
Yes.
Like an ordinary woman, if a man was saying like, hey, the reason why I can't be with you is because I literally believe that I'm a B, I think that our first reaction would be like, I'm leaving, or maybe
I should call someone.
Yeah, do you need help in some way? But the fact that she's just like, okay, that's fine. It's like, I don't know, it feels like that this is almost a Stockholm Syndrome movie, that she has dedicated so much of her life to being in love with this man, and for him to not like pay any attention to her, that when you finally get to this point, she's like, I cannot, it's like being in a cult or something. You cannot possibly accept the fact that this is crazy, so you just have to keep on going with it. Like, I don't know, she's like, I've dedicated my entire life to this man, so I have to accept the fact that he is me.
Yeah.
So I don't know what else to say about this. I am amazed that this is a film that exists on this planet in this time, and that it was treated with such like seriousness. It treats this whole thing so seriously that I can't, it's hard to process.
Yeah, I think that's the most baffling part of it, is that it's not treated like a farce, or, you know, like it could have had just like a playful tone to it, like kind of The Personal History of David Copperfield or something like that, or it could have just been like this kind of zany tall tale type of story to it. But no, he is dead serious. She also makes a she talks about feeling like she's the swan princess at one point, because when she was a kid, her dad was like, you're a swan, you're not a cat, or whatever. And there's like this weird thing where you see her suddenly like look like she's flying over the fields like a swan, and I was just like, wait a second, is this what's happening? But no, she gets on an airplane. Apparently. It's so
well, and there's a long history in Irish cinema and in Irish storytelling of basically magical realism, right? So the concept of people that turn into animals is selkies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which this could kind of fallen into, although the fact of a bee is just really hard to accept somehow. Like if he thought he was a horse, I would have had an easier time with it.
Yeah.
It does feel like, is this a live action version of Bee Movie? Because I don't know about this. It's just I'm flabbergasted by it, and I'm flabbergasted that these actors thought that this was a good idea, and that anyone at any point was like, we should make this movie.
Mm-hmm. And that it was written and directed by someone who has an Oscar for writing.
Yeah, like I say, it's very hard to process. It's hard to like understand.
Yeah.
Why or how or anything.
Yeah, what's also crazy is like he wrote Joe versus the Volcano, which is a weird little movie itself, but it has that element of unbelievability and stuff. Like it's very playful. And if this had been more like that, it would have made a lot more sense, and it would have been fun instead of just like 2 hours of what am I watching?
Well, and maybe that's what this was intended to be initially, and then it just didn't, the tone didn't work or something like that, because it does feel like if this was more absurdist or more like bizarre or something like that, if it had gone farther with the bizarreness, it would have made better sense. Mm-hmm. It's the fact that it introduces this weird ass twist in the middle of what's basically a very rote but fine romantic drama, right? Yeah. There are other issues that this film has, but the twist just makes you go like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So yeah, Wild Mountain Thyme, you can watch it on Hulu. I honestly kind of encourage you to, because my God, like I don't think you will ever see another movie like this. I will give it that. Um,
Yeah.
someone in a recent article, I think in the Irish Times, it said referred to this as this year's Cats, which I was like, don't you know what Cats caused in 2020? Don't you start doing this to 2021.
No, that's not. I would say that's not even a fair comparison, because at least for the most part with Cats, you kind of know what you're getting into. This one you do not.
Yes, that's true. Anyway, so I wanted to talk a little bit more about, because we've been doing all kinds of things. Karen has been dealing with the Academy Awards. I've been dealing with the fact that I have given myself way too much work over the past few weeks. So we just wanted to talk about some of the films that we've been watching and some of the films that we're really looking forward to watch, because there are a lot of good things that are coming out on streaming this month. So Karen, other than Wild Mountain Thyme, is there anything that you were just like, people need to see this, the film that you've seen recently, old, new, whatever?
Let's see. So I watched a movie the other day called Stowaway, which is on Netflix. It's a new Netflix movie. It just came out, I think, like a week or two ago. And I don't know that I would say that it's particularly good, but it's certainly interesting. It has Toni Collette. It's actually just got 4 people in it. It's Toni Collette, Anna Kendrick, and Daniel Day Kim play these 3 astronauts. Anna Kendrick is like a medical doctor, and Daniel Day Kim plays like a botanist or something. And anyway, they're on a mission, a 2-year mission to Mars. And it's not totally clear when this is supposed to be set, like kind of a near future type of thing. But anyway, they're on their way to Mars for this big mission. They're going to go and like, do some studying and see what they can get to grow there and stuff. And they are just a couple of hours into their trip when they discover a man has been sealed into a compartment. He didn't intend to end up on their vessel. They didn't know he was there, and they find him. It causes some problems. And of course, one of the big problems is now they're not going to have enough oxygen for 4 people to complete their trip. And there's damage to the spacecraft and all that stuff. So what's interesting about it is the philosophical questions that it asks. Like, what do you do in this kind of situation? What's the right thing? Like, basically they can't turn around because of the speed they're going at. So basically the only way for anybody to survive is for someone to die. And how do you make that decision? And how do you make that choice? So, interesting. I like I said, I don't know if I would say that it's like really, really good, but I was pretty compelled, and I'm really glad I watched it.
That does sound interesting, actually.
Yeah.
I've heard of it. I think a few people have been talking about it recently, because as you said, it just came out.
Yeah, having a very small cast in basically a single location, because they're in this very confined space, and not introducing other elements like, oh, there's an alien creature, or whatever. It's really able to just focus on the philosophy of what do you do in this situation, and what is right as a human,
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I've been watching a whole bunch of different films, and because of my work, I tend to wind up watching half of a film one day and the other half the next day. There are a lot of good ones, but one of the ones that I wanted to talk really briefly about is Unfaithfully Yours, which I saw earlier this month, and it's a Preston Sturges film. It's one of the few Preston Sturges films I had not seen. And there are a whole bunch of his films that are currently on the Criterion channel. And so I was like, well, this is one that I haven't seen. I'm not a big fan of Rex Harrison, but I was like, but it's Preston Sturges, I'm going to go along with it. It's hilarious, as I would expect. But what I really liked about it is that it is very dark, because the whole plot is about a conductor who goes away on a trip and comes back, and his brother-in-law basically tells him that his wife is having an affair. And when he finds out about this, at first he doesn't believe it because him and his wife are really close. They love each other like desperately. This is a very passionate marriage and everything. But it kind of begins eating into his soul, and he begins fantasizing about what he should do. Right. And so as he's conducting a concert, a lot of the film takes up this one concert where he conducts 3 different pieces of music. And during each piece of music, he has a different fantasy about what he should do about his wife having an affair. And one of them is like he fantasizes about how he's going to murder her. Another one, he fantasizes about like being the self-sacrificing husband. And it's quite funny because then you get to what he actually does and what actually happens afterwards. And it's a farce, it's slapstick, but it has this really fascinating undercurrent of this whole idea of fantasy, of kind of letting your jealousy run away with you and letting your fantasies run away with you. And also, you know, the things that he imagines people doing in reaction to a potential affair. It all plays out very differently than what he actually thinks is going to happen. It's a really funny film. It's really well acted. If you've seen any other Preston Sturges films, it's very much in his wheelhouse. And one of the things that I like about Preston Sturges films is that that his characters are uninhibited in their thirstiness. Like, I've never seen films from the classical period where it depicts characters who are quite obviously having sex, like constantly. And this is true for almost all of his films. His films, as my friend Anina said, his films are really all about sex. They're just like kind of get concealed under this slapstick and this screwball comedy, but really it's about how these people desperately want to have sex with each other. So that film is on Criterion. So is one of his more famous films is The Lady Eve, Sullivan's Travels, Miracle of Morgan Creek. There are all kinds of really great films by him, and really worth it because these are not typical, I think, of the classical period, of what we associate with the classical period. He gets away with a lot, both in terms of violence and in terms of sex. So I just wanted to mention that one. Is there anything else that you've been watching, Karen?
Well, let's see. I did start the new season of The Handmaid's Tale. They dropped 3 episodes. I love it when Hulu does that because they do weekly releases, but a lot of times with new seasons, especially when it's been a while or a new show, they'll just like put the first 3 episodes out all together, which is fun. I didn't love when a major publication I had luckily already seen it, so it didn't spoil it for me, but they tweeted spoilers about the show, and then Hulu retweeted it, and I'm just like, it came out literally yesterday. You know how many of your people cannot like your fans cannot watch it until the weekend? Like that sucks. But anyway, it feels like the 4th season is the show is always dark and it's dreary and it's bleak and it's not getting happier, but it definitely feels like there's been some forward momentum, even though it's weird because even though it's still taking place just within a couple of weeks of the last season ending, it feels like finally we're really getting somewhere, because I feel like especially season 3 started to just feel like it was spinning its wheels, and now it's like, okay, I can see where they're headed, and I can see where kind of what the end game is for the show. Even though we've still got this season and at least one more, I can see like, okay, there's definitely a direction. This isn't just going to be more of the same. So I enjoyed the first 3 episodes. I can't wait to see what else happens with the season.
That's good. Yeah, I still haven't waded into The Handmaid's Tale, mostly because the book bothered me so much.
Oh, I hated the book
to begin with. Well, and then I think the initial season was released like very close to Trump's election. And I was just like, I can't, like, I am depressed enough as it is.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. Like, this is not a show that is for everyone, definitely. And not only that, but even when you're like, yeah, I could watch this, like there are certain things that happen throughout the series where it's like it gets to be too much for me, and I'm like, I don't know how I don't know how the actors got through this. And like McKenna Grace is in it this season, and I don't want to get too much into her character and what she's there for because of spoilers, but I don't know how such a young person, I don't know how some of these young actors are able to reach the places they're able to for this type of work, and it honestly scares me why she's so good. But she's very good in it, so yeah.
Well, I mean, speaking of bleak television shows, and I think that you've been watching this as well, Mare of Easttown.
Yes.
Which is on HBO Max. And I kind of started it because it had been very well reviewed and people were talking about Kate Winslet as being excellent in it. And then, I actually watched it, and it is very good. It's bleak. It reminds me a lot, actually, of the British show Broadchurch, if you ever saw that one.
I never did. It's been on my list for years. That's
very good. It's on Netflix. That's, again, it's not for everybody. It is very compelling, particularly the first season, but it's dark. Like it's difficult to process sometimes. But Mare of Easttown, I think, does a good job with kind of getting you invested in these characters' lives. And we watched the second episode last night, and I was like, oh my god, drama. If there wasn't enough drama before, now there's even more drama. But I think one of the things I like about it is similar to what we were talking about when we talked about Winter's Bone earlier in our bonus episode, which is that it doesn't feel like it's talking down to people. It is actually treating people's, everyday day-to-day lives as being very important, and the issues that they're dealing with as being very important, without treating it as like poverty porn or treating it as like, look at these backwards hicks or anything like that. It's a very well done show, and I quite like Kate Winslet in it. And amazingly enough, I like Evan Peters, who I don't usually enjoy.
Yeah,
because I find him very creepy.
Usually he is, yeah. I am offended to my core that Kate Winslet is playing a grandmother, because she's only a year older than me.
She definitely had kids really young, though.
I know, but still, she's only a year older than me. This is possible, and it makes me mad.
Yeah, initially, like, I was having difficulty working out all of the family relationships, and I was like, wait, she's the grandma, and so that makes like Jean Smart the great grandma.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But this definitely is a town where like people just have kids young, because it's one of those where you stay in the same place. It's where you grew up, you stay there, you get married young, and you have kids young. And
well, and I mean, you think about it. I think that she had a kid when she was like 20 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And if you're 40, that means you have a 20-year-old kid. So
yeah, exactly.
It does. It all depends. Yeah. I could have a teenage daughter right now if I had kids young enough.
I know. No, I actually know someone who was born on my exact same birthday, who just his first grandchild was just born, and I'm like, my brain is not willing to accept this. This is not okay.
It's just like, no, but I am a kid. That can't
exactly.
be right.
I can't even have kids yet. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I think about if I were a mom right now, I'm just like, no, that sounds terrible.
Just like, I am not prepared for that. Absolutely not. I am too young for that. I am not enough of an adult.
I still have moments where I'm like, oh, I'm at Costco. I'm such a grown-up.
I mean, yeah, like this, I bought a car this past couple months, and I'm like, I'm a grown-up now. I've registered a vehicle. I'm paying insurance.
Yeah.
Woohoo. Anyway. I don't know what that says exactly.
I don't know.
So what about films that are coming out or that are going to be released on various streaming services this month? I have to say, I just went through the Criterion Channel's new releases, and I discovered that not only are they showing several Lois Weber films, which at least one of which I have not seen, they also have a whole bunch of other films. They have films like by Alice Guy Blaché, Germaine Dulac, Dorothy Davenport. Like, I was actually quite surprised because they hadn't really seemed to be advertising these at all. And I was like, why are you not pushing the fact that you have all of these great films that you're just putting up on the service?
Yeah. Well, they like to do weekly. They do a monthly email, but then they do weekly ones of like kind of this is what's coming up. And so maybe that's why I just haven't noticed some of these things, but I'm pretty excited about the Josephine Decker films that are coming.
Yeah.
She's the director who did Madeline's Madeline, and last year she did Shirley, which was great. I love that movie so much. And so they've got a couple of features from her coming and also some shorts. So I'm really excited to see more of her work. I didn't realize that she had so many films that were available. So
yeah, I know that I've been wanting to see Butter on the Latch for a while, and it was on I think it may have been streaming on Shudder or something like that for a little while, and then it went off, and I was really disappointed because I couldn't find it to stream anywhere. And then so now it's coming out. Yeah, there's a lot of really good stuff. The Lois Weber films include 2 feature films and a couple of shorts, including the film Suspense, which is one of her kind of best known films. It's only 11 minutes long, but you know, if you want to talk about D.W. Griffith inventing continuity editing and cross-cutting and suspense, cinematic suspense, you've never seen a Lois Weber film.
exactly.
There's some great ones. Dorothy Davenport's The Woman Condemned, Germaine Dulac's The Smiling Madame Boudet. These are some really great early works by female directors that very often, you know, you might hear their names, but you don't necessarily get much information about them. You don't necessarily see their films a great deal. So it's very cool to see them actually being put up.
Yeah. And then they've got a couple of Dalton Trumbo films too, stuff that he wrote. So that'll be fun because there's some that I haven't seen. I mean, obviously Roman Holiday, I've like everyone's seen that, but and I remember seeing 30 Seconds Over Tokyo when I was really young, but I haven't seen that in years. But yeah, so there are a few other ones that they've got from him too. So yeah, it looks like it's going to be a good year. I mean, a good month for Criterion releases, at least. I was looking at some of the other services, like Netflix has some, you know, they've got the Zack Snyder movie coming out this month that I'm not interested in. I do think, because like I have said before, I enjoyed Dawn of the Dead. I think that one's actually kind of fun. And so this is being another zombie movie. I'm like, I probably won't. It's going to be a much different movie from like his DC stuff. So I hope a little bit that I'll enjoy it, but also I'm so over him. I don't really care.
Yeah, I'm not interested. Honestly, most of the stuff that I watch, I think comes from Criterion.
Yeah. I was looking at Shudder too. They're going to have the original and the remake of House on Haunted Hill coming up this month. So that'll be fun.
You've seen the original, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Years ago, but they're gonna have it. So I love rewatching stuff on Shudder. Like I've probably watched Halloween 100 times. You know, like just because it's there and I like it. So yeah, but I haven't seen House on Haunted Hill in years. So like the original. So I'm looking forward to that. And then there's one movie that's coming out in theaters this month that I'm interested in. I don't know how to feel about it because it is written and directed, co-written and directed by Taylor Sheridan, but Angelina Jolie is in it, and it's called Those Who Wish Me Dead. And my understanding of it is that she's basically trying to protect this kid who's in the witness protection program, and it's up in Montana, so it's kind of out in the wilds, you know. And so I'm very cautiously like, I don't know, it's Taylor Sheridan, so who knows how this is going to go, but I really like Angelina Jolie. So, and I think that she's a good actor. And so I'm curious about it. So I'll definitely be checking that one out.
Yeah, I did also want to encourage a few people to watch The Balcony, which is also on Criterion Channel. It is a adaptation of a Jean Genet play. Which might mean something if you do film theory or literary theory. It might mean absolutely nothing. Jean Genet is sort of an absurdist writer, And what was really great about this film, I think, is that it stars Shelley Winters, Peter Falk, and Leonard Nimoy. And it's about a brothel owner played by Shelley Winters who runs it's a brothel, but it's a brothel where men come to kind of act out these extreme fantasies, including pretending to be a bishop or a general. And Shelley Winters is having an affair with the chief of police in this unnamed South American nation. And what happens is that there is a revolution going on outside the doors. And eventually the police chief shows up and they decide that they are going to pretend that these men who have been kind of playing out these fantasies of being archbishops, etc., should pretend to be the actual heads of government. It's hilarious, it's bizarre, and one of the most surprising things was that like Leonard Nimoy has a small but very important role, and he came on screen. I was like, oh my God, Leonard Nimoy was hot. Like that was my first reaction, just like, Jesus Christ. Oh, I was unaware of this. Okay. But it's a great film. It's hilarious. It's very feminist. And it's a trip, and it's only an hour and 25 minutes. So it's definitely something to watch. It is on Criterion right now.
Awesome. Yep, that's on my list too.
So anything else before we close out this kind of grab bag of an episode?
Just our normal watch more movies.
Watch more movies, and don't defend like sexual predators online. That's
don't do that.
Cool. You can
and
still
also,
like their movies. It's okay to like movies, but don't say like, well, actually you're wrong.
Yeah. And also you're emotional because you're talking about this topic instead of logical. It's like, you're the one that seems to be getting mad. But whatever. Yeah, in general, just stop assigning emotions to people, especially to women, because I was thinking about this the other day. It's like, well, yesterday. It's it's like how women can differentiate a lot more colors than men can. Like even men that aren't considered colorblind, women just can see more shades of blue, more shades of red. They just can see more colors. And I was thinking about that in terms of like emotions too. Women have lots of different types of emotions, and men apparently just don't understand this. And so they think like, oh, you responded in this way, therefore you are angry. And it's like, no, I'm not angry. I am earnest. I am, trying to get my point across. I might be a little frustrated, but I'm not angry. Stop saying I'm angry because you're making me angry.
That's the thing. It turns into this like, well, now I am.
Yeah.
Wasn't before, now I'm getting mad.
Exactly. And yeah, so just stop doing that. Just don't.
I've actually had men be like, why are you so angry? It was just like, oh, this is not me angry. This is just me like excited. No, you don't see me when I'm angry. If you would actually like to see that, keep talking.
Exactly.
Anyway, so yeah, don't piss us off, like, for God's sake.
And the easiest way to do that is to tell us we're mad.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's their goal sometimes, actually.
I think
they want us to be mad so they can be like, oh, you're being over emotional.
Yeah.
Just
even
like
though, I've never been run off the road by a woman who didn't like the way I was driving. Just saying.
The men are too emotional. It's like they really need to be protected.
We need to protect them from themselves.
Just don't worry your pretty little heads about it, boys.
If they just would smile more, it'd be fine.
We do like individual men, of course. It's just the general majority like has problems, and maybe guys need to work on that. I think that's going to close us out for this episode. As always, we want to thank our patrons, many of whom are men. We are really thankful for that, guys. We think that you're probably some of the good ones.
Exactly.
And as always, so we want to thank Adriana, Ali, Heather, James, Kathleen, Carriata, Mason, Matt, Matthew, Michelle, Monty, Nanina, Robert, Steve, Sharon, Tao, and Will. Thank you so much, guys, for supporting us. We really hope that you're enjoying the bonus episodes. We do hope to have some more stuff coming out exclusively for patrons fairly soon. it's just, there's a lot of other work to be done, but we are working on it and we are making plans. So keep an eye out for that. If you want to join our Patreon, that is something that you can do, and we'd be really, really grateful. And you also get to listen to bonus episodes. You get to do some other fun stuff. Our Patreon is patreon.com/citizendame. And if you want to just kick us a few dollars and you don't want to make a commitment, that's fine. ko-fi.com/citizendame is where you can do that. We also do have a Zazzle store, zazzle.com/citizendamepod, where you can buy masks and you can buy buttons and t-shirts. And I think that Karen's going to be throwing some more stuff up there soon as well. So there's a lot of good stuff. And as always, we just are really grateful for support of any kind, basically, because, you know, this is a podcast. We're trying to keep the lights on, and we really enjoy doing this as well. So you can also go to our website. That's citizendamepod.com, where we have reviews. We're going to have a couple more reviews coming out. I have my review of Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar up there because I can't say nice enough things about that film. And that is one where Jamie Dornan is actually funny and is supposed to be funny. We love you, Jamie Dornan. Like, make more movies like that. I'm sorry that I besmirched your Northern Irish heritage by not believing that you're actually Irish.
That accent, like, he did not. Yeah, I don't know. I'm so confused.
And we'll also have some more Blu-ray reviews and film reviews and articles and stuff like that. We are getting up our top fives again, we promise.
Yep.
You can also send us an email, citizendamepod@gmail.com. Just let us know how we're doing, ask any questions. We do try to answer things, you know, give us a little bit of time. And if you do have a question for the podcast, something you want us to read on the air or something like that, just let us know. We are always happy to talk to people. And you can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at citizendamepod. We are very friendly and nice unless you are being an asshole. You can also find us a multitude of other ways individually. Karen, where are you?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Karen M. Peterson.
And I'm on Twitter and Instagram at LH Business. Thank you so much for listening, guys, and we will be back next week.
Bye.
Standing on this holy land of Ireland, why shouldn't you marry me?
I see things. I'm delusional. For the love of God, woman, I think I'm a bug.
So what? Sometimes I think I'm a house cat.
You do not.
No, but I don't stay with it because I know I'm a swan.